All right, well, welcome. Today we have Tracy McCubbin here. Tracy is a bona fide life decluttering extraordinaire. Think Marie Kondo and include emotional decluttering too. Tracy has recognized the need for decluttering in all parts of her customers' lives, be that their online photo albums, their wardrobes, or even their emotional lives. She is also the founder and CEO of Declutterfly, America's top decluttering company. Founded in 2006, Declutterfly is perfectly positioned to support people through the most challenging time for a generation, the COVID pandemic. With a best-selling book and a focus on mental health, Tracy has successfully helped thousands of people to focus. Declutterfly has been featured in dozens of internationally recognized magazines, including Goop, House Beautiful, The Washington Post, CBS, and on NBC News. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. Saying hello from Los Angeles.
I know. It was so interesting. So when one of your agents reached out to me, I wasn't sure because with internet and spamming and stuff, it was like, is this real? And then they seemed legit. They were very professional, by the way. But
oh, good.
Yes, very professional. But I just I hadn't been approached that way before, so I was like, oh, and then when I reached out to you, it was like, oh no, you're a real person. Okay, we're good to go. And so I've been really looking forward to this because, being a life coach that focuses on mental health and autoimmune and just health and wellness in general. As I just said to you when we were kind of introducing ourselves, having ADHD, clutter and organization has always been a struggle for me. And I've gotten better, but it's something that is just a work in progress for me. So can you kind of tell us what exactly you do and what got you into it?
Oh yeah. So I own a company called Declutterfly. We are more a decluttering company than an organizing company. So what I tell people that means is, while we organize and we can come into your house and we can put things in rainbows and pretty bins, we really work on helping people with their relationship to their stuff. So helping them figure out what they really need, what they really use, what they really love, and then getting rid of the rest. So we provide the insight and the physical support. So I have a team of 8 people that work for me. We're at different jobs all the time. We do a lot of things like we come in with senior downsizing. So if somebody's moving from their lifelong home into a smaller home, kind of how the family sorts through it. We do a lot after people pass away. So cleaning out houses, we move people, just anything that has to do with their relationship to their stuff. And for me, I don't have, I have a methodology. I have what I believe in. And I believe that our relation to our stuff is rooted in emotions.
Sure.
That we attach all this meaning to our stuff. It comes to us with no meaning. We attach all this meaning. And if you can be aware of the meaning that you attach, you can change your relationship. So I'm not saying I'm not a minimalist. It looks like it right now. It's so funny. It looks like I'm a minimalist right now, but we're moving. So everything's in boxes on the other side of the camera. I'm not telling people to be minimalist. But what I'm saying is, if you feel like your stuff owns you instead of you owning your stuff, that's when there's an issue. So I want to help people make their homes clutter-free so that their homes can support them, so that your home, you can walk into your home and you feel calm. I'm sure you've researched this or talked about this, clutter increases your stress. They've done so many scientific studies. We all know it. We all feel it. Mm-hmm. So I'm about, let's have less stuff so we have less stress. Not about looking good on the gram, not about Pinterest. Like, it's really about making your life run smoothly. And if you have, like you, a big family, 6 people in the house, it's about ease. It's about how do we make meal prep easier? How do we make getting dressed easier? Like, how do we make it all stress-free? So that's really where I come from. And I think that's where I differentiate from sort of the traditional organizers about we're going to make it look pretty. It's like, no, yes, I love that. But really, I want you to be able to, go into your kitchen and not have any clutter so you can cook a healthy meal. Yes. That's my goal.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I appreciate that so much because aesthetics are great. I love looking at a nice, pretty magazine, but there is always a root to what what you see, and you can't keep something anyway. Just like when you lose weight, you can't keep your weight off unless you've changed the habits to get to that point. Otherwise, you've just lost the weight to now put it back on because the habits didn't change. And
Right.
there is like the part with mental health and decluttering is so strong because what feels better? Like just yesterday, I did like a deep clean update on my bathroom and one of our bathrooms upstairs. And it just, I felt so good. Like I felt lighter, you know, I'm like, I don't lose any weight, but like everything just feels better. And like when you walk to a kitchen and it's clean versus there is a mental, it is such a strong mental piece. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't affect everyone the same way, but when the emotional ties of stuff is so true, because I think like our parents, more so our grandparents' generation, growing up in the Depression and things, they would keep everything, you know, every plastic bag, every zip tie, every, you know, and so then that passed down to the next generation. And so I see that a lot, even with my parents, and I love them dearly, but like, you know, they'll keep all this stuff and then bring it over to my house because they can't get, you know, like they don't have room for it anymore. They've moved to a smaller house, but it means so much to them that they can't get rid of it, but so Sara can keep it. And it does mean stuff to me because it's like, wow, this was my grandparents, whatever, but it's just, you know, taking up more and more space. So how, you know, how do you go about that? That when people say, but this is so meaningful, you know?
Yeah, that's such a great, like I'm dealing with this because I do so much senior downsizing, you know, this one's a really big one. Like everyone, like people call me up and I'm going to move them. And they're like, my kids don't want anything. Like my kids have their own houses full of stuff. And so one of the things that I say is like, start the conversations early, like start talking within the family. Like what does mean something to you? What, you know, have your grown kids or your grandkids identify the things that they would like and understand that, just because something was meaningful to you doesn't mean it's going to be meaningful to the people behind. And it doesn't mean that, you know, it doesn't mean that it wasn't important. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that family didn't come before. You know, my mom and I have this joke, but she had this chair that I forget. It's like this wicker chair. It was in our house forever. Yeah, you couldn't sit in it because it was broken. I never liked it. She just was like, but you don't understand. Like this person came, you know, brought it over on the boat from Germany. Well, like this whole, and I was like, I know, but it doesn't, like, okay. Yeah. Okay. Like if it means that much to you, then you need to keep it, but you can't foist your meaning on me. So, and also this is a really important part. When we keep the stuff of people who have passed away, what we really are keeping is our connection to them. Mm-hmm. It's not about the stuff. We want to keep our connection. Mm-hmm. So when you understand that, like, oh, I want to stay connected to someone who's no longer on this plane, then you realize like, oh, maybe I don't have to keep everything of theirs, but I can keep a few things, like a few special things, so that when I look at it, it makes me really happy. I was working with this woman and her mother had passed and quickly, and she was there, and it was it was just awful. And she was very, very upset about it still, and was still grieving. Mm-hmm. And she had all the items that had been on her mother's nightstand when she passed. So it was like, but it was like pens and a chapstick and she had it out. And it was the first thing that she looked at every morning. And she relived that trauma every morning. And she's like, but I can't get rid of it. Like those were the last pens that she touched. And I was like, well, what if we reframe this? What if you take this stuff that reminds you of the trauma of the night you lost her, and maybe you put your favorite photo of her or her favorite vase, and you put flowers in it, so that when you wake up every morning, you're seeing a good memory and keeping that connection. And it was such a flip for her. Like she felt like she was disrupting or disrespecting her mother by throwing away the last pens that she touched. And I was like, well, let's just reframe it. Let's keep your mom in your life, but in a really positive way. So I think that that's what sort of we have to understand when we pass along. And also to speak to your parents, you know, this is like, I always tell people, the stuff that you don't want anymore, the people who need it will find it. Like donate it, give it to a neighbor. Like just because your kids don't want it doesn't mean there's not somebody out there that needs, I had another client, this is a great story. Her mom, she had to put her mom in assisted living fast.
Yeah.
She had to fly back east to do it. And she called me up and she said, I've got a house full of beautiful furniture. I don't have time to do anything with it. Like, I can't bear to have the trash hauler come. Like, I'm frozen.
Right.
And I said, let's go to good old Facebook. I'm like, put some ads up, like put some photos up, put it up. Yeah. It turns out her cousin's daughter had just gotten married. They were moving into their first house. They didn't have very much money. They brought a bunch of strong friends over. They took most of the furniture and outfitted their house. And she was like, I am so happy. Like, so you can trust that it can get to the people who need it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they're just phenomenally talented with like woodwork. Well, my brother is a phenomenal, brother-in-law is a phenomenal woodworker. And then his wife is just like, she's so talented. She refinishes. And she goes on Marketplace and Facebook and finds these pieces and then does this just like, whoa, like beautiful job. And to me, like I inherited, when we first got married, I had my grandparents' bedroom set, which I loved because I do love antiques. And it was a double, like a full-size bed, but I think the full-size beds used to be even smaller, like
yeah, they were,
so this is our like first wet, oh, hey buddy. And now, we're like, can't get a big enough king, but, and it was so neat to know like this was theirs, but refinishing isn't my thing. It's not my thing. I don't have the time for it. I don't have the patience for it. So it's kind of like all scratched up in a lot of places and gummy in some spots. But it's such a neat piece. So it's like, why just let that sit there and get gummier and, stickier and gross? Whereas someone can take it who loves doing that and make it this beautiful thing. And then it has this history behind it. And then someone else now can use it for a purpose. It's not just sitting there getting junkier and junkier. So to put that, so how do you, I guess kind of go through your process, like with your business, how you, with how you advertise, like what you do, like if you pick up a client and they, like you said, I'm moving, I'm downsizing, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. I found you on the internet. I don't even know what I want. I just know I need help. Like, how would you go?
By the way, you've just explained every phone call.
99.9% of who calls you.
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing I always do with people is, we create a vision. What's your goal? What's your goal? Are you downsizing to a smaller house and you want to get rid of, the stuff that you don't want? Do you want to make your house that you live in more livable? Right now, I'm getting phone calls from everybody who their kids schooled from home all during the pandemic. Now they're starting to go back to school. Fantastic. And they're like, my house is a disaster. Like we gave up. We kept everybody healthy. We kept everybody in school. We kept it from killing each other.
Yep.
We gave up. So, it's like, okay, of course you did. This was so hard. The past is a past. You got through it. We got through it. Let's focus on that. So in that situation, like getting control of your stuff. I mean, I was working with a client who I've worked with for years, who's a very beautiful taste and a very fancy lady. Sure. We've been doing her kids' room. She has 3 kids. No exaggeration. Like when I tell you her house is so beautiful, each room we pulled 4 to 5 bags of garbage out of the kids' rooms because she was like, I couldn't yell anymore. I couldn't have that fight anymore. Yeah. I just wanted them to focus on school. I didn't want them, I want to be able to like keep their social, like I just gave that fight up. And I was like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do to get through the day. Like that was survival. So, it's figuring out the goal of what people want, the best way to accomplish it. And really, it all goes back to the vision you have for your house.
Yeah.
How do you want to live in your house? How do you want your house to support you? Where are your trouble spots? If somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, this is really resonating, like, but I'm not sure where to start. What I always tell people is just do your day, and pay attention to the trouble spots. So pay attention to where the stress comes up, what
Sure.
room you walk into, or what room you open the door and shut the door and don't even go into.
Yeah.
Where things are difficult. Do you wake up in the morning and are all your clean laundry in a laundry basket, and you're digging through the laundry basket to start the day, and you're already starting the day with an icky feeling? You know, is your kitchen countertop cluttered, and so you don't want to make breakfast or make a smoothie, so you just find yourself in the drive-through at Starbucks eating a croissant? You know, it's paying attention. I always say it's the awareness. Let's start with the awareness. Where are things not working? And then we can go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that hits home. That really does, because, you know, okay, I'll focus on so the kitchen in our house. You know, sometimes I will say, I'm just so overwhelmed. And I do have, I mean, I have kids that are very capable, and they have jobs, they have, you know, the oldest do their laundry, but you know, their personalities are all obviously very, very different. So my oldest pretty much could live on his own, and probably does a better job of parenting the kids than I do. Like, he's just has old soul. He always has been this old soul. And then my second one is more of the, like me, a little more, inattentive, but yet gets good grades, very social. But he is the one that we have the joke every morning, knocks on our door, comes in, you know, digging through clean laundry. Where's my blah, 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 you know? And it's like, well, it was your job to do your laundry. You didn't do it. It was sitting there. I did it. I don't know now. Like, so the stress has already started, you know, and, or the kitchen, you know, I said, if I can just always keep the kitchen clean, I could almost care about anything else in the house, because it's one of the, you know, we have a 2-story, but it's like, it's one of the main things you first see. But it's also like, if I see clutter and just things that aren't, you know, dishes that aren't done, things, I don't even want to cook, you know, like I just want to.
You don't want to cook. You don't want to cook.
No,
You're like, let's just order a pizza. It's they did this study. It's so fascinating. They did this study, and they put people in a cluttered kitchen and an uncluttered kitchen. They put the people in the cluttered kitchen and they offered them a cookie and a carrot. And the majority of people took a carrot. Sorry, in the cluttered kitchen, the majority of people took a cookie. They put them in an uncluttered kitchen and the majority of people took the carrot. So
that is interesting.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'm sure if you've been if you yourself personally, you shared with me that you've been dealing with ADHD, and I'm sure you've talked about decision fatigue.
Oh,
you know about
analysis. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So if you think about your clutter in that way, through that lens, and for the people who don't know, that decision fatigue is very oversimplified, but the part of the brain that makes decisions gets tired faster than the rest of the brain. And when it's tired, it defaults to making bad decisions. It's super fascinating. And when you realize it, you're like, oh, that's why if I'm exhausted at 11 o'clock at night, I'm eating pizza. Like that's why. So if you think about your clutter through that lens, every piece of thing in your house is a decision. Where does this live? Do I need this? Do I want this? You know, so the more stuff you have in the house, the more decisions you're focusing yourself to make, and the more tired you're making your brain.
Yeah. Well, and wow. Yeah. And that's our world in general. You know, I talked to a missionary friend her wife, they were in Africa for like 12 years. They grew up here, but then went to Malawi, I think. And so it was a huge culture shock when she got there. You know, she had a very hard time in the beginning. It never was easy, but she got, used to it. But coming from here, we're like, you know, so one of our big grocery stores is a Woodman's, and it's one of those huge grocery stores. And so the cereal aisles alone, I mean, you have 2 aisles of cereal and on both sides. So now you have 4 aisles of cereal and oatmeal and things like that. And she's like, that alone is almost bigger than a mart in Africa when we go. So when I would go to get food in Africa, it was like, oh my goodness, they have 2 heads of celery today. I'm going to get one, you know, or, you know, they would get these huge bags of oats and then have to sit there and pick out all the weevils and things like that. But she said, you know, so that was a huge shock. And then after 2 years, they got to come back for like a respite for like 2 months or something. And she said she went into a Woodman's with her mom and she literally had a panic attack, because when she walked in, it was like, even though she grew up in that environment, now she had been away from it for a couple of years, and she felt like I've had panic attacks in the past. So I understand that feeling of like, is this spinning? Am I okay?
Right. I can't catch my breath. What is this feeling?
Do I need an ambulance? What is it? And then but
yeah.
she was just shocked by that because of that culture shock back and forth. And so, when we are being raised in this environment of like, okay, we used to have, 8 cereals to pick from. Now we have 888 cereals to pick from.
We used to have, I'm going to date myself. We used to have 3 TV channels.
Yeah.
Right.
Click, click, click.
Yeah. And you're like that. And you're like, okay, you can watch one of 3 shows at that time and you couldn't go back. It's the overwhelm, the decision fatigue, the overwhelm is so huge. Like it's just the amount of choices that we have to make all the time. So what happens is what I see in my clients and with everybody in the readers of my book and is that we're being marketed to buy all the time. So we always think we need the newest thing. We need this thing. We don't fix things anymore. We don't sew a button on a shirt anymore. We like, I can go to this.
Fixed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the amount of stuff that we're bringing into our homes is exhausting. And I always tell people, like, think about when you travel, right? Yeah. You're like, I go with a suitcase and you're like, I don't miss my stuff at home.
Yeah.
My whole house is packed up. We're literally moving in 2 days and we had to stage the house. So a lot of things were packed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a few things in the kitchen that I was like, oh yeah, I could use that right now. But more, I was just reminded, like, I miss the comfort of my stuff.
Yeah.
More than like the stuff I actually used. I was just like, where's my stuff? And so it's just wrapped in emotion. I've lived in this house for 21 years. It's a big change. It's very emotional. And I'm like, where's my stuff? I need my stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that we're kind of being told that more is better. And I don't see it. I see lots of people with lots of stuff and I don't seem much happier than anybody else.
Yep. Yeah. And I love your point about how, like, home is where we should feel safe and we should feel comforted. And, so again, we can't control the amount of choices we have out in the world, but we can control what's in our home. We can control the amount of choices in our home. So how do you, encourage or kind of, I'm not telling you to give us the step-by-step, because I will put the book in the show links and everything. I'm excited for your book. I'm a huge reader, so I'm going to definitely be getting
Excellent.
And I will be sharing that. But, how do you recommend, what are kind of your start points to saying, I guess, like, what are 3 steps somebody could take to bring, not minimalism, because that's really not what we're talking about, but just keeping home more, less stressful, like with less choices of, what do I do?
So the first thing that I tell people before you even start decluttering, before you even get into organizing your house, is sort of look at how much stuff you're bringing in. So the very first thing that I tell people is swap the word need for want. So it's like somebody will say to me, like, oh my God, I need a new pair of jeans. I really need a new pair of jeans. And I'm like, do you need a new pair of jeans? Because I'm looking at 10 pairs right now and I know you're not a rancher. So I know you don't wear jeans every day. So the first swap that you make is, I want a new pair of jeans. And that's okay. We all have wants. That's okay. But that swap of I want is, you're already reframing your thinking. You don't need a new pair of jeans. You really don't. No. So then all of a sudden when you're like, oh, I don't need that, I just want it. So is there something else is there something else I'm wanting in that moment? Do I need to pick up the phone and call a friend? Do I need to read a book? Like, what am I really doing with that? So that's the first step that I tell people. Swap the word want with need. Then the next thing and I said this earlier, is like, go through your house and identify where you get stressed out. Make a note, keep a little journal, make a note in your phone. Like, I haven't been in that back bedroom in 6 months.
Yeah.
I haven't been in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where is it clogging up for you? And then what would you gain? What would you gain in your life? This is an example I always use. So only 25% of Americans can park their cars in their garage.
Really?
Yeah. So 75% of Americans who have homes, who live in homes, can't park their car in the garage.
That
so
could be me if I wasn't married to my husband. I'm married to so really quick, he's type A, and I'm the 16 personality, Briggs, whatever, Meyer. We are 1 in 16. So like, do you remember that show, Dharma and Greg?
Yes.
We are Dharma and Greg. So, now that when you say that, I'm like, whoa, but that's because I'm married to him. So without him, it would probably be, yeah. Okay.
Right. Exactly. So you were like, okay, look at your garage. So what do what would you gain by having an empty garage? It's like people are like, I know you're in Wisconsin. It's like being able to park your car in the garage during the winter. That's huge, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Do you have are you paying for an outside storage unit? What's that costing you? Like, what's the cost? So, what I always tell people is don't focus on, oh, I'm a bad housekeeper, I need to declutter, I'm so disorganized. Focus on what would you gain from decluttering?
Yeah.
Would your day, if you weren't getting dressed out, we'll use your son as an example.
Sure.
If his clothes were put away, and he knew which drawer his t-shirt that he was looking was in, he would gain an easier start to the day. Yeah. You guys wouldn't have your conflicts. He wouldn't ask you. You wouldn't be resentful. He would gain independence. Oh, I washed my shirt. I put it away in this drawer. I know exactly where it is. Yep. So we so often focus on beating ourselves up about what we can't do or what we're doing wrong. And I'm like, well, give yourself an incentive, right? If you do this will make you feel better. And that's what I really want. I don't want people to beat themselves up and like, oh, I'm such a bad person. Like, I'm a terrible housekeeper. It's like, focus on the positive, focus the change you want to make. What do you want to get out of it? I can clutter a lot to healthy eating, because it's like you can lose weight and, eat healthy. And then the minute you start again, you have to stay on top of it. But it's like that cookie, that Oreo, the first one, delicious, great. The 10th one, not so good. No, it's not so good. Yeah. You feel terrible. You actually feel sick, right? So it's about like, let's not beat up. You're going to eat one. We're always going to eat an Oreo. Yep. Who's going to pass up an Oreo? But like, okay, I can have this one and this feels good, but 10 of them, doesn't feel so good.
Yep. Yeah. I'm still like thinking like, so many, not every conversation in life, but so many, you always have like a, whoa, like I call it the aha moment. Like, and I'm still going back to your aha moment with the carrot and the cookie. Cause I'm thinking even as a mom, I'm like, it's another motivator for me in a different way I've never thought of. Cause I've always thought, okay, I want to teach my kids to be orderly. I want to teach them to clean up after themselves. I want to have a clean kitchen so I can prepare, but I never thought about the whole, like, what my kids are choosing because of what maybe they're seeing all the time. And that, how often, I mean, yes, you can see very organized, I don't want to say organized, but like just keeping things clutter-free. And if they have that pretty mastered, most people I know in life are like that in most of their other ways in life too. Their health, their how they manage their weight, how their success with their job. No, okay, not across the board, but overall, that's what I see. And, one of my best friends actually is she's a corporate wellness director. She's in Denver now. She was in Seattle, but she was married and then she went through a painful divorce. And after that divorce, she really got into, triathlon training, and it just kept progressing and progressing and progressing, where she's been to Kona, Hawaii 4 times, and she's won, or more than that now, I think she's won her division. She ran across the Sahara Desert 2 years ago with backpack on, 140 miles. 2% were female, the other 98% were men. They had to have everything on their backpack, everything they ate, their sub-zero, sleeping bags. And she wins all this stuff, you know, but she has always been, and especially since, even before the divorce, but especially since the divorce, like, and she's so fun and she's so funny. She's not like this, you know, like anal,
right.
Has a great time. She literally plans her day to the minute. And I thought she was joking once, because I don't see her very often because we're so far apart in miles. But she was coming to town because she's originally from Milwaukee, and she's coming back to see her parents, and she wanted to get some coffee. And I thought she was joking when she said, let's meet at 217. And I was like, Alan, you know, and granted, she'll laugh about it, but she is serious. Like she will be there at 217, you know, where I'm like, you know, get 5 minutes here or there. But she's one of the most successful people I know in now. Yes, she has struggles. She's not perfect, but it really shows in her life. So that is a motivating thing for me to think, okay, I want my kids to keep choosing healthy options. And if that's another thing that will just subconsciously help them make that choice, that's pretty amazing.
You know, you think about, you see again, we go back to social media, but you know, you see all those pictures of people's perfectly organized fridges, right? And I posted something about a picture of that, and like, it was like my biggest post ever, and everybody lost their mind. But the thing about it is, you know, I know, like in my own life, when my fridge is messy, when I haven't, you know, and it's like I haven't kind of cleaned it out, or I haven't stood on top of it, then I'm going to the tortilla chips. Yep. Like the bag's right here. But on the days that I go to farmer's market and I come home and I wash all the bell peppers and I cut them up, and they're in a glass container, and it takes me 10 minutes. And then I open my fridge and I was like, well, look at those delicious bell peppers and a little bit of hummus. Like, I will make the healthier choice. Yeah. And they're delicious and they look pretty, and it's not like, ugh, I have to do this. So it's this like, a little bit of prep, a little bit of organization, a little bit of clutter-free, and I'm gonna make the healthier choice, which is delicious. Like, I'm always happier. I do not feel good after a bag of chips, and I can eat a whole like tortilla chips. I can eat the whole thing. So I really, you know, my goal with people, and the goal for writing my book, Making Space Clutter-Free, is that I want people to be supported. I want their home to be a tool that supports them to go out in the world and be their best selves. Yep. It's not about wrong. It's not about you're bad. It's about, how do we make this the best place that you can be, so that you can go and do what you want to do.
Yep. Yep. I love that. You know, it's so, there's such similarities there too with health coaching, you know, because when I'm coaching women on, you know, and a lot of it's weight loss and health and my focus is, you know, mental health struggles, autoimmune issues, you know, the people that are told or made to feel like you're broken, you know, you're not going to lose weight because you're on this medication. You're just going to keep gaining weight. Or, you know, you have rheumatoid arthritis, so, you know, you're in pain a lot, so you can't go do CrossFit. And a lot of those people just kind of feel, they give up because they think, well, I'm never going to lose weight. I'm never going to feel good. And that's not true. There is a way. It's just not, it's not the typical way you see with the Beachbody girls on Facebook that are trying to get you to do Beachbody and whatnot. There's different, and it's a lot of habit change, but with people who have a lot of, say, like excess weight that they want to get rid of, you know, I started, you know, this wasn't my concept, but I love it, that if they can look at their weight as not this bag of like guilt and bad choices you've made and fear and just all, you know, thinking bad about it, but looking at it as, you know, all potential. Like, think about all the, you know, and I thought of that when you talked about the decluttering, the potential you have when that's gone, because when you release every 5-10 pounds of fat that you release, you're gaining energy and mental clarity and being able to run around with your kids or grandkids, or
longevity.
Yeah. Just things that you have wanted to do that has held you back. And the same thing with your clutter, you know, the declutter, it holds people back, whether they have, you know, they think that or not.
So here's a great example of that. So imagine, and for a lot of listeners, they're going to be able to imagine this. Your closet is stuffed to the gills, like stuffed, right? Yeah. So you're trying to get ready in the morning. So usually if your closet's stuffed, you're going to wear the same things that are in the laundry basket. But if you're like fighting the hangers and pulling it aside and want to get this thing, and then the blouse is wrinkled and you got to do this, like, you've already started your day stressed, in a struggle, late, right? You're already late. So, let's imagine that your closet, you got rid of 50% of your clothes because you don't wear them anyway. You got rid of the sizes that make you feel bad about yourself. You're like, this is what I wear right now. This is my size. I'm going to do it. Imagine a world where you get up in the morning, you can open your closet door, you can find what you want. It's not wrinkled. You get dressed and off you go.
Yeah.
It's already like you ratchet down. Already you're not that tightness in your throat and, oh, I've got to do this. You know, you're already okay. And that's my goal. Like you said, like, let's not focus on, you know, you've stuffed your closet and you can't wear that size anymore. I mean, you know, I am freely speaking about it. I'm in menopause. My body has changed. My body has changed. It's going to be different. It's never going to be what it was. You know what? Great. This is this. I'm not, there are things I can't wear again. It just changed in such a way. That's life. It's called gravity.
Just like puberty, you know, you went from like having this kind of a body to having whatever our womanly figures took shape. And for, you know, that was hard to accept for a lot of girls when they started getting bustier, and some girls didn't have hardly any bust at all. And a lot of girls were self-conscious because that felt tighter in here. So then you thought that must mean I'm fatter, you know, and you just, that's a constant thing with females. And it is hard, but I think if you can, again, keep changing the perspective, we're going to struggle here and there still with it. We're human, but keep changing that perspective of, okay, so I'm changing this way, but now what can I gain from this change? You know, sure. Maybe.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And you know, the idea that like, look, change isn't easy, but you know, we evolve, we move forward, we're on to different things are important. And for me, it's just getting people to focus on where it isn't working for you, and what can you do to make it work? What can you do to make it more pleasant? What can you do to make it easier? What can you do? You know, you brought this up, and I see this with so many of my clients, like that fight between the parent and the child of like the clean room, like, oh, clean your room, you know. And what I always say is like, maybe the conversation becomes about like, exactly as you said with your son, like they want to find that certain toy. And it's like, you know what? If you cleaned your room and you put your toys away, you would know where to find it. Yep. And then you wouldn't be upset. You're so upset right now because you can't find your Legos. But if your room was clean and you knew where your Legos were, you could be doing what you wanted to do. We wouldn't be spending this 20 minutes in upset. Yeah. You could be building, you know, the Taj Mahal out of Legos.
I know.
So teaching the kids that, and by the way, I'll say this to the parents out there that are listening, especially the little kids, they go to school, they keep it neat at school. They know how to put things away at school. Yes. They start, if your kids go to preschool, if they go to Sunday school, trust me, those kids know, they know exactly where to find what they're looking for at preschool. Yep. So don't tell me they can't do it at home. Yep. Don't tell me.
Exactly. It is definitely, and every parent will probably say this, that it is some kind of a power trip because I'll say my daughter for sure. Like, last year I homeschooled a little too, just because with everything going on, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to deal with it. I just wanted I wanted as normal. I either wanted them in school normal, or I want to be able to control what's going on. And so, you know, our older two went to high school there, but and it was an experience. I mean, there's things that I cherish about it. There's things that I loved. I love that I got to pick curriculum, things like that. But holy cow, like, especially our daughter, because she does tend to have more of the inattentive issues. And then she's a girl. We have 3 boys and a girl. She is like the perfect storm. She has emotions that you would just be like, wow. I mean, over the top, and then stubborn. And then she can be a tomboy, and she can be, but anyway, these struggles I would have with her, she never had in school. I never had those issues with teachers. Because when she's in an environment like that, that's how I was. I was like, okay, I got to pay attention because, you know,
right. But she's also testing her boundaries with you in a safe place. Like, right. So in that conversation about the messy room, it's like, look, they're testing their boundaries. They're seeing how far they can push. They're figuring it out. But if you can switch the conversation from not like clean your room because I want it cleaned, that if you have a clean room, you can do what you want to do. Yeah. It's a benefit to you. It's not about me. You know, I can shut the door and never go in there. Right. It's about you, you know, you getting dressed in the morning. It's easier for school, finding what you want. You know, I'll never forget, we helped this client and she had 2 little boys, and it was just that like time in parenting. They were super close in age, and it was just, she was just like, I can't. So we did the playroom, got rid of a bunch of broken toys, got rid of stuff they didn't play with, cleaned it all up. And she had one of those little like I think it's Lakeshore, they're the little colored baskets that you put all the different toys in. So we had organized it like, you know, Army Men and Legos, and they were all by category. And these little boys ran in, and this little boy was he ran up to it and it was like perfectly organized. And he's like, my guys, I haven't seen my guys in so long. You know, and she was like, oh, I get it. Right. Like he wanted to be able to find his stuff, and he, you know, and they were labeled so that they could put him away. And there was, you know, growing pains to get them to follow the system. But when they realized, oh my God, I'll never, it was accused, my guys. So it's about reframing it that way, right? Like, what'll you gain by having a neat room?
Yep.
You know? Yep. Let's stop having this argument, because this is boring.
I know.
And this is wasting everybody's time.
I don't want to yell at you, and you don't want to be mad at me, and I don't want to be mad, you know. Yeah. What could you, okay, so this would be a question I personally have, and I'm sure other people too. How do you tell people? So, you know, you've been going into people's homes and helping them do this and such. So I'm sure you've dealt with, you know, this was so-and-so's and it meant a lot, or maybe even the mother or father. Like, how do you suggest telling somebody who's trying to be nice to the other person, without hurting, you know, I'm sure there's always going to be maybe some degree of hurt feelings, and that's just life too. But like, how do you suggest people deal with the whole, you know, saying no to taking things that just aren't going to benefit you, but have this deep personal family meaning?
Yeah. You know, I think that it's very challenging. You know, there's sort of two ways to go about it. One is I love that you want to give this to me. I love that it means so much to you. My house is full. I will not appreciate this, because this will give me so much stress, and I don't want to have this thing. So maybe we can find somebody else in the family that would love it more. Let me help you make some phone calls. Let me text some cousins, because I don't want this thing from grandma to cause resentment in me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so, but do you have a photo of her that I could put up? Or do you have something like acknowledging? Because remember, when people give gifts, it's not about the gift, right? Like it could be their love language, right? So it's about acknowledging, because basically when you say, I don't want it, their feelings get hurt. Well, I'm doing this nice thing for you, and saying like, I love that you want to do this for me, but truthfully, this is, you know, I can't take this. I don't have the room. And sometimes you just got to take it and put it in the Goodwill pile. And, you know, sometimes you just have to say, great. Like some things you're just like, okay, thanks. But it's really about acknowledging, you know, I talk about this at holiday time too.
Yeah.
Like just saying like, look, we're having a scaled back holiday. We're having a scaled back Christmas. We have too much stuff. Like the kids, you know what the kids really need? A savings account. You know what the kids really need? Like, please don't buy any more plastic toys that they're not going to play with. Like we really, like, I know, and this is great for grandparents, because grandparents, you know, they want to shower all this on their kids. So it's like, I love that you want to show your grandkids this much love. It's so great. You know, it would be fantastic. Can I drop the two little ones off, and can you teach them how to make those cookies that you make?
Yeah.
Like, can we foster the time together? Can you make a book and write down your 10 favorite recipes and teach them how, like, that's what you know, you want to find a way to foster the human connection without the stuff.
Right. Because the concept of stuff, like we said before, has changed so much. You know, I remember my grandma, who she's gone now, but she was one of 16 kids. So she definitely was somebody that, like, you know, their mom would make them a doll, and it would have like just a simple little face, and that was precious to them. So, you know, because they had such less stuff. And so I remember it got to be a joke that every Christmas, like, she had all these grandkids and great grandkids, and she felt like she had to give everybody a gift, even though she didn't, you know, she was widowed at the time, didn't have a lot of money. But that, you know, because she grew up in that, you know, the little house in the prairie where, you know, they got their little sack of whatever and this, and they were just like, oh, because they had such little stuff, and they didn't have anything to pick from. So even one thing was like, but now we live in an Amazon world, and we, you know, we can just, you know, we don't even give gifts like we used to, because it's like, oh, what do you want for your birthday? Yeah, go buy yourself something. You know, it just isn't
right.
But she would still like give, you know, make sure every single person got a gift. And she would give us like, you know, some ornament that she got like super cheap. And it was like a chicken that was like, you know, I don't know, painted. And she'd give it to like the guys, you know, like the 30-year-old men. Thanks, grandma. Because it was the gift. It was what
Right.
she was doing. And, you know, so I think that, you know, I love how you are kind of turning it around to, it's not that I don't want your love. I want your love. How about we, like you said, make a recipe book with grandma's best cookies, or teach my kids how to make those cookies that you make, that grandma made, that great grandma made. And then I mean that those options, you will see those people go, oh, because they love time.
Right.
They do.
Right. That's what I was speaking. I spoke at a speaking event, and all these people, kind of one of the things that came out of it was I ended up doing this accountability exercise where all these people in the audience had things that they needed to declutter, and like they were difficult to declutter. So I was like, okay, this, like, for instance, this guy had this dead golf cart, couldn't be fixed, it been in his garage. I was like, all right, how long do you think it'll get? You can call the trash guy to come get it. He's like, 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I'm texting you on this day to make sure you do it. So I had like 8 of those.
Yeah.
And I said, and there was this young guy, and he kind of was getting, really young, handsome guy, and he was getting a little upset. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what do you need to declutter? And he said, you know, it's weird. Like, I don't need to declutter anything, but I'm just feeling like I need to declutter my time. Like, I don't spend as much time with my mom as I'd like to, because I'm so busy.
Sure.
And I was like, and he's like, and I find myself buying her things and sending it to her on Amazon. I was like, all right, what can you commit to? And he's like, I can commit to lunch with my mom twice a month. And I was like, great, like, do that. She doesn't want the stuff. She wants to have lunch with you, you know? And so sometimes when we're buying this stuff, and especially grandparents, you really want to see the kids. So can you say, like, can you drop them off? Like, I got to do chores, but let's do laundry together. Like, make the time important.
Yep. Yeah. 2 other things I want to hit on really quick, and then I want to just, you know, you can talk about your book just a little bit, and then anything else you want to throw in there. But I wanted to, say, so you talked about having a team of 8. So how does that work then for, you know, you're in LA, I'm in Wisconsin, which we had that Wisconsin connection, made in Milwaukee. But how does that work across the country then?
So we do travel. We do travel for jobs. If they're big enough, we will go. I am doing if anybody's interested, I am doing some virtual decluttering. So we can, it's more coaching and accountability. So people are free to reach me, tracymccubbin.com. I'm sure you'll put this in the show notes. So yeah, we do travel. We're right now, kind of with everything that's going on, we're really California based. We haven't been traveling as much, but if something's big enough, and we'll go, or sometimes I'll go to a city, like I have some clients in Nashville, so I'll kind of put the word out and say, like, I'm going there for a month. So that's fantastic. I'm looking to expand. So if there are people out there that are interested in becoming an organizer, reach out to me. So yeah, I'm very lucky. I have a great team of people. They're fantastic. They're fantastic.
I love that. You know, coaching in general, especially, you know, is when the whole COVID thing hit, virtual has really boomed, because we had to, first of all. But, you know, the inconsistencies of everything, like, so I'm more in the health world, health and wellness. And we were just talking about this the other day on a call, that, you know, one of my coaches that coaches me is up in Canada. And he had said, you know, Canada is a little bit different than us in the US too. They got a couple, but he said, he's not real positive on how the gyms are going to stay, because, you know, they tried, and then they opened, and then they did mass. And he just thinks, in general, a lot of fitness will go back to, is just going to start being online. And I think coaching in general, what you do too, you know, because everyone is looking for either clutter help or, you know, and when I said organization, you can't get organized until you work on your clutter issue. You know, it's the whole habit.
People ask me all the time. They're like, what's the #1 tip to being organized? Like, have less stuff. super easy to be
Yeah,
organized.
I know. Like we'll talk when you have less stuff and then let's talk.
Yeah.
But no,
that's the first step.
But I think a lot of people are looking into that too, like being coaches, because we all have different gifts of what maybe we want to share or help people with. And so that's a great option that you threw out there. You know, hopefully that will be something that you can kind of maybe get more worldwide, because I mean, Zoom is great and you can get so much stuff done Zoom, but sometimes it is nice to just have somebody come in and have that personal touch. The other question I had too, and it kind of pivots off this completely, but I had a question, so I talked a little bit when we started talking about a lady I knew who became a hoarder, and she had 4 kids, and she never was she wasn't until she lost her husband. And I understand a little bit of the psychological part of that. I've watched the show. Before I got married, I actually did social work, and then I worked with people with developmental disabilities. So I had 2 guys who had hoarding issues, and one was literally, when I would have to go to his apartment, I couldn't see the floor at all. There's no carpet. It was literally a foot high of garbage. And I remember thinking, oh, do I have to go there? Because I would get kind of like nervous, like I'm going to step on something. I babysat as a kid once for hoarders, and they weren't even nearly as bad as what you see on the show, but I literally was babysitting and you couldn't see their carpet in their bedroom. And I started hearing meows, like little baby meows. There was a fresh batch of kittens that had been born, and they were underneath a pile of clothes in the parents' bedroom. And I don't even know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I could have stepped on them. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what happens, do you think? Because maybe you've dealt with this situation. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. A lot. Yeah.
So in the case of this one lady, her husband died at a pretty young age. So then she's left as a single mom with 4 young kids. What do you think causes this?
Yeah. So this is super interesting. I'm so glad you talked. So the first thing to understand is that hoarding disorder is a mental disorder. It's most likely they're coming to find out it's an anxiety disorder. It's like agoraphobia. It's something, and it's almost always brought on by emotional trauma. Okay. So it tends to be passed genetically. So oftentimes people can look back and see it in their family, and then something traumatic will happen to them. And it's how they manage the pain. It's how they manage the stress. Like it's almost as if it's like, if I build this wall of stuff around me, I won't feel my feelings. Sure. So if you are listening and you feel that you have hoarding issues, hoarding disorder, seek mental health help. There are people out there, and they have a little bit of meds. Sometimes they also have a ton of success with something called CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. Super. And it's a very easy therapeutic thing. It's not like you have to talk about your painful childhood. It's just and they've had tons of success with CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and hoarding. So if this is, there's so much shame around hoarding disorder. I know people don't let people into their, it's a tough one. And the people who tend to have it tend to be very, very smart. Sure. So when the feelings hit them, it's something they're not used to. So please reach out to a mental health professional. Like, understand that you're not alone. This isn't something you're not lazy. This is like a very real, and there's help out there. And I'm a big proponent of therapy and mental health help. This idea that we can do it on our own. I don't know who came up with that, because it ain't true. No. So, there's a book called Buried in Treasures, a very simple book that deals really with hoarding. And if you have someone in your life who's a hoarder, it really, I went to do a consult with a woman whose mother was she'd fallen, and they'd taken her out, and they've got to get the house ready for when she comes back. And, it's just, you don't have to live like that. You can get help. You don't have to live like that. There's help out there, and it's going to take some work, as with anything. And, but acknowledging that you're just wired this way. You didn't do something wrong. So let's get you the help you need.
Yep. and again, breaking the mental health stigma, which is one of my biggest passions, because that is something I struggle with since I was about 10 years old. You know, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder at 10, and not in the typical like washing hands. Mine was more of the intrusive thoughts. And then I went through a very bad eating disorder. So, but there's this shame. And then especially when it comes to, you know, because women in general, and I mean, thankfully, I can honestly say I'm not that way. Maybe because I know I struggle with this too, but like there are so many women who have the whole, oh, you know, their house is kind of messy, or you know, and this like underlying judging. And it's like, geez, you know, I'll say to my boys sometimes, like when they bring their friends over and, you know, they didn't help me out with the kitchen. It's like, really, I'm not that embarrassed. I would just be kind of embarrassed if it was like my friends are coming over and that was my mom more. So it's like, so let's all pitch in here, because I didn't even make that mess. That's not really
right.
But there are people who are very, I mean, I know my mother, well, I shouldn't say, somebody I know that she's extremely clean, as in like doesn't go to bed unless every single dish is done. Like not even a cup. And she was serious. I mean, she kind of laughed about it, but she's also serious. She said, I can't go to sleep because I feel like if I die in my sleep and the ambulance and everyone comes and I have a messy house. And we were like, but you're going to be dead. Like, what? You wouldn't care. But that's in her head. That was what motivated. So thank you for that. Because I mean, I understand that really none of these things make sense. Why do people, you know, trichotillomania, eating disorders, you know, none of it makes sense, but it's just how the brain is trying to cope with trauma. So I appreciate that.
Exactly. And so much of our issue, and, you know, we just quickly, I want to, so my book is called Making Space.
Yes.
Right here. And in the book, I identify what I call the 7 emotional clutter blocks. Okay. So there are these, everybody's got them. Everybody's got one. Some of us have all, depending on our lives. And they're basically these stories that we've invented about why we can't let go of what we let go of, what we don't want, need, or use. So it's very like, oh, I never made that correlation. Like I didn't realize I was hanging on to this stuff because I'm you know, perfect example, clutter block number 5, I'm not worth my good stuff. You know, this is people who have clothes in their closets with tags on them that they haven't worn, and they won't use the nice china because they don't feel like they're worth it. So it's this book really, it has a work plan to get through your whole house, but it also helps you kind of understand the emotional aspect of it, and where, and very positive, very like, I just want you to, you know, be your best self. And there is a lot of crossover with trauma. And a lot of why we have clutter and why we beat ourselves up and why, you know, and so when you can, and a lot of times too, it's intergenerational trauma, you know, that it was passed on and that you inherited these things and you saw them. And so it's really about, it's about illuminating and giving people knowledge so they can live their best life.
Yeah, I love it. And where, I mean, Amazon, I'm sure, do you sell it on Amazon, your book?
Yep, Amazon. Yep, it's on Amazon. Most libraries have it. Almost every library in the country has it. Okay. It's Audible, so if you like to hear things,
that's my deal.
You can spend 5 hours with me. I read it myself, so it's great.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, it's great. So it's really great. Making Space Clutter-Free, the last book on decluttering you'll ever need. It's great. I'm very proud of it, and people love it. So yeah,
I will definitely be, like I said, it'll be in the show notes. I'm going to be promoting it because I just love the connection that you've brought with this in health in general. It's not just another, like, you know, TLC or whatever the shows are, like how to make everything beautiful. This is really about health and wellness, you know, and it's area
health. Exactly. Health and wellness so that you can be happier. Yeah. That's all it's about. It's not about a perfect house. It's not about it's about so you can be happier.
Well, thank you, Tracy. And I hope that your move goes great. I know the next couple of days I've done this so many times myself. Every move, I'm like, never again.
I know this is a big one. It's very emotional. I'm leaving my house of 21 years. I'm moving in with my fiance. Like it's a lot of change. So I got to kind of go easy on myself because I'm very like, what's going on? I'm crying at a drop of a hat. And I'm like, oh, right. I'm saying goodbye. Yeah. You know?
I've never lived anywhere 21 years. So I can only imagine, but God's blessings on it. I hope that you just enjoy your next chapter. And
thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for connecting. And I look forward to, talking in the future.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Tracy. Bye.